And we're coming to you live for the Built Ford Tough Studio. Boomer Esiason, Greg Giannotti. It's Boomer and Gio on the Fan. Simulcast across the country on CBS Sports Network. And wherever you are in the free Odyssey app, good Thursday morning. The 2024 football season begins tonight with the Kansas City Chiefs hosting the Baltimore Ravens. So that is very exciting. We wait for it all summer long. We wait for it from the Super Bowl. It was just, feels like yesterday that we were running out of Allegiant. Is it Allegiant Stadium out there in Vegas? Allegiant Stadium. After the Super Bowl, trying to get an Uber that Al needed to put his girlfriend Gina in, and speed walking, and me and Eddie huffing and puffing. It feels like just yesterday that was going on. Al, as angry as I've ever seen him, saying it was the last time he was ever going to do something like this again. Well, I don't think we're going to the Super Bowl this year. I don't think so. We could if the Jets or Giants end up there. But a new season starts today, and I tell you, man, the New York Mets are as hot as anybody in sports right now. Another win yesterday. Get off to a great start. The Jesse Winker Grand Slam. Things get a little dicey, but the Red Sox fall apart. Mets tack on, and they are just killing it. And, of course, the Yankees, sloppy baseball, weird spot in their season. And you've got this closer thing where now Aaron Boone says they're going to get creative. Good luck. Good morning, Boomer. How are you?
Yeah, good morning, Jay. I'm doing great. I told you yesterday when we were getting ready to leave that I was all pumped up about the Mets going 4-7 in a row, and then they end up winning it the way they did and the way that they played. You know, here's the thing. When you watch a winning team, a lot of things are obviously going right, as opposed to when you're watching a losing team when things are going wrong. So the Yankees happen to be a losing team now. The Mets happen to be a winning team. So the winning team looks great in the field, makes all the defensive plays. They get the timely hits, and all of a sudden the teams that they're playing against fall apart right in front of your eyes, kind of like they did early on in the season, and we were all ticked off about it. The Yankees, on the other hand, who, by the way, only have 4 more wins than the Mets.
I know. I noticed that same thing this morning going, wow.
Is that crazy?
That gap, closed so quickly.
Well, I don't think it's quickly.
Yes, it was. The Mets have won 7 in a row.
Yeah, but here we are.
That's how you close a gap.
I understand that, but here we are in September. It took them all that time to catch all the way up. And, the unfortunate thing for the Mets, if there is an unfortunate thing, it's not about how they're playing. It's about how the other teams around them are playing now. So Philadelphia's playing well. Atlanta's playing well. The Diamondbacks are playing reasonably well. The Padres are playing well. So it's not just that the Yankees are playing poorly, because that has nothing to do with the Mets' chances to make it to the playoffs. But right now, if you're a Met fan like we are, it's appointment television. It's you got to watch it, you got to see it, and quite frankly, you have to give 2 people in particular, 3 if you want to talk about a particular player, and that would be Francisco Lindor. But you got to give David Stearns a lot of credit here for what he's done and how it's turned out up to this point with his pitching staff, with some of the additions that he has made this year, the impact that those players have had. And yesterday was the Winker Day. Like, we've had a Winker Day from 2 weeks ago. You know what I'm saying? So every now and again, you're going to get a Winker Day. Yeah. Every now and then, you're going to get an Iglesias Day. Yeah. Every now and then, what you're going to get is really quality top end pitching is what we've been getting for the last 2 months.
And that's the most impressive thing of this David Stearns offseason is putting this rotation together and a lot of it working out. And I don't even think if you got David Stearns privately, he would have thought that this team would have been this good at this point in the season.
Especially with the way it started.
Well, I'm just saying before the season started, before they got off to a terrible start, 0-5 and everything else, he probably didn't think they were going to be in this mix. This was a transition year, and they are just there's just sometimes teams, and it's amazing the Mets have the highest payroll in baseball, but you feel like they don't have a lot of stars. Because of the way Alonso's playing this year, obviously Lindor's a big star, but outside of that, it's like they're a bunch of dudes.
Well, I would say if we go all the way back to May, I do remember Steve Cohen basically saying, I believe in the team, I believe in the core. Like, I remember those comments that he was saying back then, and there was a lot of scoffing going around. And, that's not a word that's used very often.
Another one.
Right, exactly. So there was a lot of scoffing going around, a lot of people on this radio station screaming and yelling, scoffing at Steve Cohen, making fun of his comments back then. And again, we should all understand and learn from the past. And the past is, in a sense, that these baseball seasons go on forever. And you just never know when one of your teams is going to get hot. And you just got to hope that it keeps going this way, and that the Mets get the timely hitting, the good defense, and especially the starting pitching. And then, look, they've been like every other team in baseball, churning and burning with relief pitchers, in and out, in and out, in and out. And you were just saying how the Yankees need to get creative because
Aaron Boone said that.
And what he's talking about, which they probably should have done back in July, is kind of like what the Dodgers have done. Like the Dodgers do that, they have a guy who has, I think, 18 saves, then they got another guy who's got 10 saves. You got to kind of mix and match. And
well, when you don't have a guy, you got to mix and match.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But you know what? I mean, the day of the the closer guy, the Trevor Hoffmans of the world, the Mariano Rivera's of the world, Edwin Diaz is probably one of the last remaining standing guys that, you'd like to think you could count on, but maybe sometimes you don't. But the fact that they're saying they have to be creative now with 20 games to go, I mean, this should have been 40 games to go or 60 games to go. All right, look, we're going to take some of the pressure off. We're going to move them down. We're going to give them a chance in the 7th. It's still going to be high leverage situations. It's just not going to be in the 9th inning.
Yeah, piece it together. And you're right about should have been done a long time ago, and that's been a huge criticism of the Yankees is the fact that they wait too long. Now, I understand that Brian Cashman, Aaron Boone, and Hal Steinbrenner in this regime, they don't want to be impulsive. They don't want to have these knee-jerk reactions to things, but they have swung the pendulum too far the other way, and they wait too long for guys to get it right. And now they're in this situation where it's early September, the team's not playing well, and they finally made a decision to do something with the closer role, and it's not like there's much you can do.
Well, what you can do is you can mix and match and try to match up certain players, analytically, and you got to look at all of those things. And I know that most fans hate hearing that, but that's how you have to get creative. You got to know, you got to give everybody a chance. Everybody's got to have a little bit of the slice of the pie, if you will. And I think that's the only way for them to go, to have They don't have Mariano. Okay, let's face it. They don't. They thought maybe they had a guy that they could count on, but obviously that has not been the case this year. And so you have to do something else, and that is give everybody an opportunity or try to match up the best you can and be that creative manager. And this is where the manager is going to come in here, and he's probably got to, if I were him, the way I would look at this is I would sit down with my collective pitching staff, my relief pitching staff, and say, okay, guys, listen to me. I'm not throwing it all on Clay Holmes. He's had a tough time. We all realize that. We've all had tough times in here. I myself, as a baseball player, have gone through big slumps, so I understand what is happening here. What we need to do is we need to pick up our teammate, we need to pick up our team, and we need to enhance. I am going to enhance your responsibility as players, and you may find yourself in a situation where you're going to be the man in the 9th inning. You're going to be the man that's coming out of the pen in the 8th inning to get guys out with guys on. I mean, and that's the way that I would present it. It does all fall on Holmes' shoulders, but somehow you have to present it to the group of guys, and hopefully they collectively understand what they're trying to do and why they're doing it.
Yeah. I mean, in every one of these relievers, you can make a case that, the 7th inning in situations, the 8th inning and the 9th inning, they're all just as important in baseball. So a lot of these guys have that experience. It's just that, now they're probably going to see the 9th inning a lot more than they did in the past.
Well, yeah, I mean, and look, and that's
simple stuff, man.
It is pretty simple. And like I was saying about my man Precious Achua going into the playoffs with the Knicks.
Wow.
I want people to have a slice of the pie, man.
Wow.
Get him in there, man. Give him a chance. Give him an opportunity. Nice T-shirt, Al.
Man, oh,
it's
man.
Boom time.
You worked in Precious in the Open today.
Yeah, I did.
You worked him in there.
You know why? Because I have his card right here.
Oh, that's right. It was,
I just saw it, and I said, you know what? It reminded me of my Precious Achua take going into the NBA playoffs.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is what Aaron Boone has got to do. He's got to do what is required to figure out the best way to relieve the pressure on Clay Holmes. Gives other guys opportunities at being the guy at different times, and try to really figure out where you find the high leverage situation and who's going the best at the moment or who's the most rested at the moment, and give that person a chance to be the guy that closes out these games. Because first of all, Marcus Stroman was terrible yesterday.
Yeah,
I mean, he had a bad game. He's been pretty solid for the most part for the Yankees, but yesterday was not one of those days.
I know what you've said about the Yankees for weeks and months now, but I'm going to give you an opportunity.
I'm not jumping off. I'm not one of those jump off guys.
All right, well,
me.
This is what I was going to say. I was going to say, if you could put your money on one team or the other to go deeper in the postseason,
Yankees,
you'd still pick the Yankees over the Mets?
Yeah.
All right. I mean, I know it changes every single day. I'd probably agree with you.
No, I don't. The reason I say that is because while the Mets are a great surprise, and maybe they'll continue to surprise us when they go to the playoffs, these other teams around them in the National League are making it tough on them. For whatever reason in the American League, even the Astros are still behind the Yankees.
Yeah.
But I know they're a good team. I just don't necessarily know that there's this really, truly great team in the American League.
And it is amazing. Like the first thing I thought, and it was a negative way of looking at things, and I decided not to go that way, is the fact that the Mets have played as well as they have, this winning streak, and still this morning they're looking up at the Atlanta Braves.
That's the point.
I mean, it's with all the injuries they've had, the Braves have had, they're still looking up at them. I mean, with the Mets being 12 games over 500, riding a 7-game winning streak, and they're still on the outside looking in with the Braves ahead of them. It's crazy.
If the Mets would have done this like 3 weeks ago, they might be 2 games out of first place.
And maybe, but and they're going to have another opportunity as Atlanta is still on the schedule, and we will never forget. I certainly will never forget that series in 2022 when all they had to do was win 1 game down there to essentially lock up the division. And they got swept, and everything was lined up where they had DeGrom and they had Scherzer, and everything was lined up for them, and Bassett, and they got swept. So they're going to have another opportunity. There's a lot of those guys. The 3 guys I mentioned aren't on the team any longer, but there's a lot of guys that still are on the team.
Just remember, the Mets have 7 games left against the Phillies. They have 3 games left against Atlanta and 3 games left against Milwaukee. And all 6 of those final games are all on the road.
Yeah,
they have to go down to Atlanta again.
Yeah,
this
I know.
Is going to be fun.
Well, it's what I said. This is going down there. That may determine everything, just like it did back in 2022. Now, you hope that Milwaukee has wrapped everything up and not playing for anything at that point for the last 3 games of the season, but you never know. I mean, back in the day, 2 years in a row, 2007 and 2008, the Marlins weren't playing for anything, and both of those times they beat the Mets when they needed to for the Mets to complete their collapses.
Right. So it's great right now. It's just, it's great. And now come the Reds, and then the Blue Jays, and then it gets interesting because after that, there's only 3 games against the Nationals, who are a pain in the ass. In division games are a pain in the ass. I mean, they have 9 games against teams. If they can go 7-2 in those 9, that would be great. Well, and then the chips fall where they may when they play the teams that are sitting in front of them.
Yeah, I mean,
that's what it's all going to come down to now.
I mean, and I don't want to use those bad memories and project it to this year.
Then why'd you bring it up then?
But I'm sorry, if you're a Mets fan, you live through that. That's what you're thinking with these games down in Atlanta. That's what you're thinking.
Well, let's change the narrative.
Well, they got another opportunity.
We got a new culture. We got a new manager. You got a new guy running the thing. You have some new players that are highly involved. I mean, so maybe the culture is changing.
Yeah. If you're Carlos Mendoza, even though he wasn't here when that was going on, do you like what our high school football coaches would do? Would you go back and show that series, like the lowlights of it, and be like, look at this?
No.
You want to be these losers?
No.
Like these losers?
No, I'm Carlos Mendoza. I'm running my team the way I want to run it, and I am not reflecting on any negativity from the past. I am looking forward one inning, one pitch, one bat at bat at a time. That's how you got to look at it.
Mm-hmm.
Keep it simple.
Got it.
And you got to look forward, not backward.
And we're looking forward to football tonight. Jerry Recco is going to tell you about that, the baseball, all of it coming up next. It's Boomer and Gio on the Fan and CBS Sports Network.